can start and we will let everybody. Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone to our webinar about working successfully with Japanese. Before starting, I would love to know about you. So we will introduce about ourselves, but I would love to know about you. If you are currently working with Japanese, and so I will launch a poll, but you can also in the meantime share with us in the chat room who you are, where you're calling from, what is your situation working with Japanese, or maybe it's a project. So I will launch the first poll, which is about the first question. Are you currently working with Japanese? So you will see it appearing. Please check yes or no. And you have a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, I would say, couple of seconds to answer. So I see now the answers coming up and I will share with you the results. Okay, I can see a lot of you are not working with Japanese currently. Okay, but it's still evolving and it will evolve also since we are not everyone is here yet, but that's okay. It gives me an idea. Okay, so I think you all answered. So I will end the poll and just share the result with you. So we can see here that right now, 67% of you are not working with Japanese, which is all good because you will be prepared. You will be prepared. Okay, wonderful. Another question that I would love to know is also the next question, which is about where are you currently located? So where are you? Could you please share with us where are you located? Or are you currently in Japan, USA, France, Canada, Europe other than France, or Asia other than Japan, or Africa or others? I was not able to list all the countries, sorry about that. But I would love to know where are you calling from, and we will introduce ourselves also just after to let you know where we are. Okay, wonderful. So I can see that we share the result. Most of you are calling from USA, but it's very interesting to see that we have such an international group calling from France, Europe, Asia, other. Wonderful. That's wonderful. That's the magic of Zoom. We can be everywhere. Okay. So now let's introduce quickly myself. So who am I? So my name is Yuko Deneuville and I am half French and half Japanese. You can hear I have a bit of both accents actually. And so this is my family. So this is the Japanese side of my family, my mother's side of my family. You can see here a picture of I have a bit of both accents. Oh, I have an echo, I think. Probably, Justine, I will just mute you. No? Okay. No, it was not you. Okay, somebody else. Okay, please make sure you mute yourself and maybe you can also turn your video off and you will be able to come up on video when you ask the question. So just because we will be a lot of people, so you can switch also the camera off. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay, so this is my great-grandparents sitting and my grandmother standing, and you can see my mother on the knees of my great-grandmother. So I'm very proud to say that my great-grandfather was the last generation of the samurai. So that's big deal in Japan. And this is a picture of my sister and I when we lived in Japan. We moved to Japan and lived there during 9 years, thanks to my parents who moved there, of course. And because I was always navigating between French and Japanese culture at that time, I always was so curious about different communication style, different behavior style. And I got married with a Vietnamese French Vietnamese husband, Nam, who is currently listening at us as well. And so he has also both culture, French and Vietnamese. So it was very interesting to discover a new culture again. And we have currently two wonderful daughters who are currently 6 and 8 years old. This picture was when we moved to the US 5 years ago in Rochester, New York, the first year. And then we moved to Florida 4 years ago. So they are currently living the same experience as I did as a child, growing up in a culture that is different and among parents with a multicultural. So that's so my personal experience, I think, shaped who I am today, and I really wanted to continue working in this field and helping other people. That's also one of the reasons why I worked first of all, as an international sales manager in multinational companies in Alstom and General Electric, which allowed me to collaborate with co-workers and clients from all around the world. And now, as a cross-cultural trainer and a life coach, I'm working with clients in Universal Studios or other companies. So that is a bit of me. And now I would like to introduce you to our special guests. You probably guessed who is it, but the special guest is my father, who is Philippe Deneuville. You can see his face here. So my father is, to me, he's an example of. Sorry for the background noise. That's a lawn mowing in the background. So my father is an example of tolerance, of curiosity, adventure, courage, and humility. He got married to my mother, Japanese mother, in the 1980s, against the will of his family. So he was, at that time, multicultural weddings were not well seen. So it's a good example, I think, of tolerance and adventure as well. So they had two children, my sister and I. So my little sister and me, and so she's currently listening at us also. She's here with us. And one day he had the opportunity to work in Japan as an expat, and he worked during 9 years in Japan. And his experience is very interesting because he was initially working for a French company, French telecommunication in Japan, and then the company got bought by an American company. So he has this experience of working in a French and in an American environment in Japan, only with Japanese coworkers. So he's a perfect example of the surprises and the mistakes that we can do. And I really like his humility, because he told me that even though he was married to a Japanese and he knew pretty well the Japanese culture, still he did a lot of mistakes, and he's willing to share with us today his mistakes so that we don't do the same. And so that's a picture of him working in Japan. I like this picture because we can see that he's the only French person in the room, in the office. So before we dive into the values, so we will, just so you know, we only have 40 minutes together. So we won't be able to go over all the values, because usually I give this training and it lasts from 2 hours to 2 days, depending on the depth of the training. So just so you know, we will just see some values, and it will be very practical, because what I really like is to give a practical training with practical example combined with some theory, but my trainings are usually very practical. So first value, Ningen kankei. which means human relationships. So I have again here a question for you. You might have some idea about what does it mean, what relationship-oriented mean, especially from the cross-cultural trainer and coach here with us. So no cheating for you, but you can still answer, of course. So I have a poll for you. Let me see. Okay, I have a question for you. So this is, how relationship-oriented or Japanese, according to you? So first question, not at all, similar to French, similar to American, or much more than French and American? Oh, I can see the answers coming up. You're pretty good. Pretty good. I guess it's not at all. Okay. So let's see. I still see some answers coming up. 58% voted, 64% voted. So yeah, don't overthink. Just give about your thought, and we will share with you the answer in a few seconds. And welcome to everyone. I can see some comments also in the chat, but I don't have time to read, but I can see some comments from Linda, Patricia, Nancy. Welcome everyone. Okay, so I think we have 83% voted. So let's end the poll and just share the results. Okay, so most of you, 65% of you think that they are much more relationship-oriented than French and American. Some of you think that they are not at all. Okay, so let's give you the answer now with this graph. So if you can see, this is for those of you who know this tool, Globe Smart tool, especially you, Brett. So this is a tool which evaluates the dimensions, cultural dimensions. And you can see that Japan, in purple, is very relationship oriented. That's the dimension on the bottom, compared to French, which is in yellow, and American, which is in green. So American tend to be very task oriented. We say in the US, time is money, or get down to the business. So we can see there is a gap. And in blue, you can see my profile. So I'm even more Japanese than Japanese. I'm very, very relationship oriented, as you can see here. And just some examples of how can we build this relationship, or I will show with you now. This is an example of how can we build this relationship with. So that's a picture when I worked in Alcatel, Japan, Alcatel Nihon. We would go out with our coworkers to karaoke and even beyond karaoke with drinking, etc., just to build relationship with coworkers. So it's very important in Japan. Another example here is also, of course, there are different ways to create a relationship, but one of them is through also the meishi, the business card. When you exchange a business card, it's very important to take the time to analyze the card, but we will talk about that later with Philippe. But that's just an example of creating the relationship, to ask, when you receive a business card, take the time and see the name and ask a question. Where do you come from? Which city in Japan do you come from? And if they say Tokyo, you can say, okay, but and when your parents are coming from, and if they give you a name of a city like Kyoto or other city, if you are familiar with the city itself or you visited it, it's even better, because then you can say, oh, the temple in Kyoto are beautiful. The one I prefer is the Kinkakuji, just as an example, just to create this connection. So it's very important. And why I'm highlighting this value is because I can see so many people from the US, even in France, from my clients, they get very impatient with the time that they have to spend creating this human relationship, because they want to get down to business right away. And especially if you're traveling to Japan to talk about business, then you want to talk right away to business. But it's not the way it works, because if the Japanese sense that you're rushing them, it will just end the relationship. So that's very important, to take the time to use small talk to show that you're truly interested in the person you have in front of you. Another value, let's move on to kata, which means the form. So here again, I have, so before I ask you a question, because I really want this webinar to be interactive. So kata is a term taken from Japanese martial arts. So if you're familiar with judo or karate, you know that it means a series of movements. So it's very important in martial arts. So, and in business and everyday life, there are katas everywhere in Japanese culture. So I will ask you a question before giving you the answer. So about kata, let's see. So what would be some example of using kata in Japan? So here you have exchange of business cards, or removing shoes before entering a house, series of movement in martial arts. I already gave you this answer. Giving and receiving gifts. There can be many answers, by the way, huh? Not only one. And the last one, do not stick chopsticks vertically on a bowl of rice. So that's just some example among so many others. If I would put the whole list, it would be pages and pages. So just to measure. Okay, so you are voting right now. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. All right, so I will end the poll. 77% of people voted, so share result. So most of you are right, because actually all of these are correct answers. They are all katas, among others. So I will share with you. Good job, everyone. So kata could be how to sit on a house, how to remove your shoes before entering a house, and how to sit on a tatami. That's an example of kata. Another kata is how to bow to each other. How to bow to each other. Like, so there are different degrees depending on who you have in front of you. If you really respect your counterpart, you will bow even more, like 45 degrees. This is another kata, the seating arrangement. So that's an interesting example, because you can see that people who are the guy in the middle, we can see his face, is the most important person in the meeting room. That is why he is sitting far from the door, because it comes from the history. Usually the first person who got killed during the samurai period was the one near the door. So you don't want to be killed, right? So you would sit very far from the door. And then you can see on the picture on the right that it's funny, because we can see my father here, Philippe, is sitting, he is next to Yamada-san. Yamada-san is Bucho, the most important person in the room. So Philippe was the number one on the graph. So he is the next person so he was sitting next to the most important person in the room, because the Japanese counterpart would like to show him that he's very important. He's a guest. And we can see that the number 2 position, the guy in the blue shirt, was not necessarily the number two, the second more important person in the room, but he was sitting here for also a strategic reason, because he was the only one who had experience living, working abroad. That's why he was sitting here, so that Philippe would know that he was the person he should talk with, or he would be his first contact person. Another very important kata among so many, and yes, about the chopsticks, you're right. When you stick the chopsticks vertically, that's meaning of death. So that's something to avoid, absolutely. The next kata is about meishi, business card. So now I will yield the floor to Philippe. I will stop sharing my screen so he can explain with us why it's so important.
Okay. Hi everyone. So although I was married with a Japanese lady for 15 years and made a 2 months training in corporation, I made a mistake in this business card presentation. And I will not tell you immediately what was this mistake. I will just explain you all the protocol, and it will be the question to understand where was the biggest mistake. So it was a meeting, a business meeting in Tokyo, in the headquarters of a multinational corporation. There were 5 Japanese customers, and on our side we were 4 people. There were 2 Japanese and we were 2 French. So I introduced myself to the first customer. Of course, I said the formula, my company name, my name, France Telecom, no, Deneuville Tomoshimasu. I am Mr. Deneuville. Hajime Mashite. Very pleased to meet you, because it was the first time I saw this guy. I bow down 30%. I am not sure it was 30%, but I bow down because I was very respectful to this customer. And I hold my business card 2 hands, like that. Okay, and of course, the Japanese side up, and with my name, so he can read my name, Deneuville. At that time, the guy may say, oh, Deneuville, it's very difficult to pronounce. Can I call you Philippe? Just Philippe, Philippe. Is it okay? Yes, Philippe is okay. And usually every Japanese call me Philippe-san, Philippe-san. And when I hold the card, usually I have one box like that. And there is two parts, one for my own business card and one for the business card of a customer. So I hold the card like that, and I have the box in my hand. Then, there is meishi box, lot of meishi box you see like that one, but some are not appropriate. For example, this one is not appropriate because you can put only your business card, but not the business card of your customer. Then you got the business card of your customer. Sometimes it's just written in Japanese. You have to spend 3 seconds to look the name, pay a lot of attention. Of course, you hold the business card with the 2 hands because it comes from the art. And even if it's written in kanji and not romaji, you shouldn't, of course, I didn't turn the business card because it's blank. So even if your customer has no English business card, don't worry, you have to pay attention 3 seconds to this business card, even if you don't understand the kanji. And the guy say his name, Watanabe. Okay, Watanabe. So you have to remember, this is the business card of Watanabe. Then I went to the table. I was not the main speaker. It was my first business meeting. So I sit at the end of the table and I put the business card on the table. And after meeting the 5 customers, frankly speaking, I didn't remember who was Suzuki-san, Watanabe-san, and Tomoka-san. But okay, I understand in the meeting who was every guy. So finally, I was pleased. I could identify how looks everyone.
Yes, and so you
to remember the specificity of everyone very discreetly. I was at one end of the table, so nobody noticed that. I write on the business card, Suzuki-san, yes, small mustache, Watanabe, yeah, glasses, and I was very pleased because I could recognize everyone. I will be able in the future to remember perfectly well how looks Watanabe and Suzuki.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we have a question for you. So about Meishi, what do you think happened after Philippe wrote on the business card? So here is a poll you can answer in the chat. He did the right thing, as it is important to remember each person. He did a small mistake, but that is not a big deal. Or he did a big mistake. Which answer is correct, according to you? I can see you're all very active. Very good. So you're still awake. That's a good sign. Okay. So I can see a lot of you. Yeah. Okay. I think that's there is 3 different answers, which is very interesting. 3 different answers. Okay. So I will share with you the results. So 48% of you, so the majority, think that he did a small mistake, but that is not a big deal. And the rest is split between, okay, he did a big mistake, or someone is sharing the screen. What happens? Please do not share your screen. Someone just, okay. Okay, I just stopped sharing. Okay, someone started to share the screen, so I just stopped that.
I can give the answer. Huh?
So yes, please give us the answer, Philippe.
So the answer is it was a big mistake. So after the meeting, we had a debriefing in our office, in the France Telecom office. Of course, my Japanese colleagues tell nothing to me, as usual. You can do a mistake. No Japanese will tell you that you made a mistake. But my French colleague, who had more experience than me at that time, told me, Philippe, you shouldn't have written on the business card, because for Japanese is exactly as you take a marker pen and write on the face of your customer, because the business card is really a part of themselves. It's as important as a driving license or a healthcare insurance card. And in some cases, even we saw a situation where the Japanese people, one Japanese people had to pay the bill in the bar, and he forgot his wallet, and then he gave 2 business cards stating who he was. So for them, business card it's really an ID card. And even if you are practicing in Japan sports with retired people, when you tell them how are you, they say, oh, I was a former employee of Fujitsu, and they give you their Fujitsu business cards that they left 5 years ago. So for them, it's really identity, and it was my first big mistake.
Thank you very much, Philippe. And we have a question, yes, from Marta. Is also how the food is prepared and presented the form of kata. Yes, the fact that everything is very detail-oriented and precise, and even the gift or beautifully wrapped is also a form of kata, to answer to your question. Thank you for that. So now let's move on to the next slide, which is about wa. What is a wa? Wa means harmony. Harmony in Japanese. And here again, so there are a couple of elements in this. It's very important. It's a basis in Japan. It's about keeping the harmony and by not showing disagreement when you're with someone. For example, not showing disagreement. A lot of clients tell me all the time, but I really don't understand when their yes mean yes, when their no mean no. That's all about consensus and not making the other person losing face, what we call honne and tatemane. Mae, the honne is what you really think, tatemae is what you show. We won't go into too many details here, but one example of the harmony is about silence. There is a saying in Japan saying that silence is golden. So it's very different from the American culture where there is a discomfort, right? When there is a silence, we say there was a study which shows that in the US, when there is a silence of 3 seconds, it's very uncomfortable. And that's why people, Americans tend to always speak, like fill the blanks. Whereas in Japan it's not the case. And so here we would like to hear from, again, Philippe, an example of silence.
Yes, at that time I was Bucho, so General Affairs Department Manager, so it was a rather high grade. The first grade is Kacho, the second grade is Bucho. And I have been invited by my Japanese colleague to attend a meeting. They say, we want you to that meeting. So I say, okay. So what should I prepare? And I had on my business card, it was written Bucho, but I was too technical expert, Gijitsu supporto, technical support, and expert in that field. So I wanted to know if I had to talk about this technical experience or if I had to do a political speech as a general manager. And my colleague said, no, we want you to say nothing. So okay. I was very surprised because I was graduated from an engineer school, so I have many very interesting technical things to say. And in my Latin culture, more I speak, more intelligent I am. So I was very disappointed to have to go to that meeting, lose my time because I had many work to do at the office, and just to say nothing.
So we have a question for you now. Why he was not supposed to talk during the meeting? Why? First, because of his poor Japanese, or because he was not very aware of the topic, or because he was at a management position, or to show teamwork? So here again, we have some questions for you. We already gave some answer, but it's okay. So we have some answers coming up. So because, okay. You seem to have there are 4 different answers. Very interesting. Okay, so I will share the results. So so it's not, the answer is actually, he will share with us the answer, Philippe. Yes.
Yeah, so the right answer is, it was to show the teamwork. So my colleagues explain me the reason. They say, this customer is very important. And we want to show him that he is very important. Because he is very important, we are going to spend a lot of time to prepare the meeting. Then you will have to teach your technical knowledge to the account manager. And because the solution is very easy, simple, reliable, the account manager will be able to understand the technical speech, even if it's not a technical person. So he will deliver your message, but attending the meeting, you will show that what the account manager said is right. If you had to come into the presentation, it would mean that the account manager is not very intelligent, we didn't prepare very well, and the customer is not important. So, yes, so the main reason was, yes, to show the teamwork, I have to say nothing and just testify that the account manager understands very well the technical solution.
Yes. Okay, thank you for this example. And just I would like to acknowledge that it's already, I know it's 12:40, so we will go over time. So if you have to leave, you can watch the replay. Otherwise, we still have exciting information to share with you. So there is so much to say. That's why. Okay, so next. So that's the next one is a funny, very interesting and funny example. So about the French exotism in Japan. So here again, I will yield the floor to, again, Philippe to share with us this story. Very funny.
Yes, so as team manager, I benefit a French training for 3 years. So I was very happy, but this guy right from the beginning tell me that he wanted to do his training in US, but he was not accepted in US. So he was selected for Japan, but he did not prepare at all his travel to Japan, and he was not very interested in Japan by the way. He was living in Toulon. It's on the Mediterranean border. So he was very Latin. And the first day he arrived in the France Telecom office full of Japanese people. He kissed every lady, everyone. He joked. He was very natural, like a French guy with French co-workers.
So now a question for you all. What happened to this French co-worker? So again, Paul, he was rejected by everyone or he was highly appreciated by everyone? Question for you all. Okay, so most of you, okay, yes, think that he was rejected by everyone. Okay, so I will end the poll here. So share results, yes, 86% of you think that he was rejected by everyone. So now here the answer.
In fact, this guy was loved by the coworker, and for me, I was very surprised because my basic rule was to say in Rome, do like a Roman. So me, in Japan, I tried to be as Japanese, but Japanese. And this guy was really Latin. And I understand that the Japanese worked in France Telecom, the French company, was because they love the French way of living. They love the French people. And they imagined that the French people was a kind of barbarian who couldn't understand the Japanese way of doing business. And of course, this young guy couldn't face Japanese customer, but he was very much appreciated from his Japanese colleague working in the French office. So the message here is very important. It's because there's no one Japanese way interacting. For example, when I did my training in KDD and I was invited to interlock with a Japanese who worked 5 years in UK. This guy was 50% British, 50% Japanese. So I couldn't interact with him as I interact with 100% Japanese people. And if you interact, for example, with a Japanese working in an American company, perhaps it's because this guy loved the American. So they are waiting you to do some mistake. So if you do this mistake with them, they will be more confident. So sometimes I stopped to do Osaki ni shitsurei shimasu, which is the formula when you leave the office. And I just did a translation of a French formula. Good weekend, have a good weekend, Ishimatsu, which is grammatically correct, but doesn't correspond at all at the Japanese culture. Because some people wait me to be a barber. So to make them comfortable, I had to play the barber role. So
yes, I like this example because it truly shows that everybody is so different. There is no one role, and it's important to take into account the background of each person, the context, their experience, everything. So thank you for that. Now the next and the last example, which is about American self-confidence in Japan. So we have another story here from Philippe.
Yes, so in my one role of my team was to enter the order entry, to do the order entry in an American system in Reston, Virginia, the sprint system, the carrier, American carrier. And in Reston, there were a lot of Americans who previously was from the Marine Corps. So my boss at that time was an American from the Marine Corps, and he thought that I should hire an American from the Marine Corps to fluidify, to ease the order entry, to help the Japanese to feed the order within the computer. And the Japanese account manager was responsible to give the schedule to the customer. And when the schedule was very tight, the Japanese account manager went to my American collaborator and say, where is the order? We are 30 minutes late. We are 1 day late. This is terrible. We need news. What's new? And this colleague was, the American colleague was perfectly fluent in Japanese. There were no problem. And he acted as the captain of a boat who would be sinking. Say, don't worry, I manage the situation. This is my first priority. Be quiet, no problem, there is no problem.
Okay, so now we have a question for you. What happened to this American manager? So first of all, he was really successful when he showed this confidence and say that everything is handled, or he was not successful and had to change strategy, or he got fired. So what happened to this very confident American manager who shows that everything was under control? Okay, so we have 3 different answers again, but most of you are answering that, okay, he was not successful and had to change strategy, 88% of you. Okay, so now we will hear the answer from you, Philippe.
Now, unfortunately, he got fired. He got fired because the account manager didn't complain to me. They complained to the boss of the sales department. The boss of the sales department complained to my boss. And my boss came to me and say, Philippe, you have 15 minutes to fire this guy because he's selfish for the Japanese people. And if you don't do it, if you don't do that in 15 minutes, I will fire you. So it has been really dramatic for me because you know that in my French culture, I was not at all, I have never been prepared to fire someone in 15 minutes. And really, it's a really kibishi, severe and sad experience for me and for this guy who couldn't change his way of doing business, and the account manager complained very heavily that he was selfish, too arrogant, don't take seriously. And what I told him several times is to emphasize the dramatic situation. For example, when the internal customer, when the account manager say yes, it seems there is a challenge, you have to say, oh, this is a dramatic problem, it is very important, yes, and you have to consider that it is dramatic, that you are going to call the president, and you have to be an actor.
To acknowledge the problem and to be in the same tragedy and to acknowledge, yes. So thank you very much for this last example that we had to share with you. And so before we get into the last part, which is an exciting announcement, I would like to know quickly, just a survey for you, but just on a scale of 1 to 10, how did this webinar met your needs, knowing that we had just a short period? So, and that will be anonymous. That's just for us to know and to prepare the next webinars. So just for us, thank you very much for your answers. And so these results I won't share, it's just for us. And what I wanted to share with you next, so while you answer to the question, so what's next? As you know, we had only a short time together. So the next step is, if you want to go deeper, I offer intercultural individual coaching. So you will be able to know your cultural profile, to know the benefits for you will be to know the gaps that you have with Japanese culture, and you will be able to compare with other cultures as well using the Globe Smart tool. And with the coaching session, we will be able to narrow the gaps, and I will use my coach hat to make sure that you are able to overcome the challenges. Another, let's end the poll. So another service that I offer also, and I'm creating currently an online group training about Japanese business etiquettes, and we will be able to go deeper into that. And I'm very excited to announce that it's going to be the best online training program because it will be customized to your needs. It will be highly practical. And to do so, I need your support. So I will send out a survey to make sure that this training will respond to your needs. So I'm very excited about that. And so I would like to know if just by yes or no, if you could just answer, it's also anonymous, if you would be interested in a more in-depth online training about Japanese business etiquettes. So thank you for your answers. I'm seeing a lot of interest, so I'm very grateful about that. And that's the reason why we are doing this webinar, is because I have so many questions all the time about Japanese business etiquette and especially practical examples. So that's why we are here today with you. So I would like to open up the floor to some Q&A. And we are here for you. For those of you who want to stay, we will stay additional 10 minutes to answer any of your questions. And for other people, you will have the replay, of course, and you can reach out to me. You have my website, my emails. I will answer to all of your questions. And thank you very much. ありがとうございました。Merci beaucoup. Thank you, everyone. We stay here for more questions. So, Justine, that will be your time to shine because I will let you speak. Justine has been very active in the chat box. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you very much, Philippe, and thank you, Yoko. I've learned lots of things and I keep learning with you, and I love that. Everybody, thank you for your comments and your questions through the chat. I think you have response to some of the questions, and the last one I will have for you. I think Patricia have a question for you. Maybe
okay.
Can you?
Yes,
Patricia.
Thank you. Good morning. Bonjour.
Good morning. Bonjour.
Good morning.
So I started writing down my question. I came in total support of Yuko, of Mr. Philippe Deneuville, but I am in awe at this because I have, of course, my dear friend Yuko, who's French-Japanese, but I'm French-American. So we clash all the time, but with love, we apologize and we move on and we learn, right?
Yes.
So I have international students, and going to Japan is on my not bucket list, but it's in my plans. Unfortunately, the Olympic Games have been postponed. Maybe that's a good thing. I have a lot to learn. And my question is, as a woman of color who's French, but very American, how would I be perceived? And Philippe knows me, Yuko knows me, but please be honest, because I think that's something that others, you know, when you're multicultural and multiracial, how would they perceive me?
Would you like to answer, Philippe, to this question?
Yes. Alors,
Yeah.
So when I was working in Sprint, we had colored salespeople, but they were allocated to the sales of calling card to the Okinawa Marine Corps. So frankly speaking, so it was possible to work in Japan, but they didn't talk to Japanese. So to be a colored people in Japan is difficult. It's difficult. To be a wife, to be a lady is difficult too. It's difficult too. If you are a white lady in a senior position, it could be okay. We had president of France Telecom Japan who was a lady, and she was very successful. So to be a lady can be positive if you are in a very very high position. But unfortunately, when you are colored lady, you could be, if you are alone in the meeting, the people will talk to you. But if there is, let's say, two people, you will see that everyone talk to the other guy, even if you have been introduced as the manager and as the leader. So it's not very it's not easy. Frankly speaking, yes. Patricia, it's not impossible. Huh? It's not impossible. The Japanese never say impossible, and they say "Choto muzukashi," and in US in French it means it's impossible. So if I would tell you a Japanese answer, I would say "Choto muzukashi."
Which means it's a bit difficult. Which means it's a bit difficult. It's a bit tricky.
Yeah.
But that's for a business context. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And but what is also good to know is that they will Japanese, and I can see in the comment from Linda, Japanese are always polite. So they're always polite. So they won't make you uncomfortable. They won't make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, the bright faces, the people will be always smiling. Yes, they will be pleased. It will be soft. it will be soft. It's just when you are a colored lady, you have just a small stone in your shoes. That's all. But if later on, if you have really I know you have a really added value, and you give them, you offer a real service to improve themselves. So I think later on, after the first contact, it may be okay.
Yes, you might show the proof. Yes, your worth by your professional experience.
They are pragmatic. They are pragmatic.
Yes.
The first look will be a bit negative, but they are pragmatic, and perhaps they will be. But you will not understand if it's okay or not.
Great, thank you. So one thing, I'll just add one thing to this, something that happens a lot with one part of my identity. People of color know that perception of how they look is not a reflection of who they are and what they are capable of. So if I were to go work in Japan, I assure you that I would make sure to work virtually, in writing, a lot of phone calls, a lot of conference calls, because what I have in my benefit, in my favor, is that often when people finally meet, of course, they look and go, she doesn't look like the person we've been dealing with all this time. So it'll become something interesting, but I'm ready for the challenge, and looking forward to it.
And you say, Patricia, even the French card is not so good because the Japanese pick one word in Japanese to say they pick the word vakansu. Vakansu in Japanese it means holiday. It means holiday, but they choose the French word vacances, vakansu. And from German, from the German language, they pick up one word for it means part-time workers, which is Arbeiter, because Arbeit is to work in German. So for the Japanese mind, the stereotype, you see, Arbeit is German, French is vacances, holiday.
That's a good summary of their perception.
Yes, so perception.
French
even
and
French, we have perception.
Okay, do we have other questions, Justine?
Yes, we have. Read the question. When you had to fire, for you, Philippe, when you had to fire the American manager in the scenario you described, is this a typical consequence about that type of situation? Or I'll let you answer the question.
Yes, so the Japanese who worked in American company, they get higher payroll, but they know that they are in an American system and they can be fired immediately. And everyone is spending, let's say, 5-10 minutes every day to have a human network, such they can find very easily a different work in a different company. I don't know if I answer correctly, Justine, to your answer.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, and I think it's important to add that it was an American company also. So this was an American company in Japan. So they have this politics of firing
Yes,
quickly,
no?
Like,
Sprint. It was US Sprint.
Yeah.
They were just free foreigner. The president, the country manager was American. Me as a French from France Telecom, and this local program manager as an American.
Yeah. So there is a corporate culture to take into account, aside from the country culture, of course.
Yeah. Yes, and even every people in this American company, Sprint Japan, the Japanese workers play the two roles. So sometimes they act purely as a Japanese and want you to act as a Japanese. For example, they want your assistant to do the tea ceremony or the tea service of tea within the office, even if she has a very high diploma. So they want you to act as Japanese, and sometimes they act as an American or as a Westerner if it's more convenient for them. So they play on the two culture, and it's very challenging. Very challenging when you are in the middle.
Yes, and thank you for that. So I think, I don't know if we have more questions, but I think it's already 1 p.m. We will thank you for your time, for being here with us today. And if you have more questions, you know where to reach out to me. I think, Justine, you put my email in the chat box already, so you can contact us and we will answer to all of your questions. Thank you again. Have a great day. お疲れ様でした as we say in Japan. Thank you for your efforts. And よろしくお願いします Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Bye bye.
はい、失礼いたします。Bye. Thank you.